Hey, it is a Wednesday morning, and Rob Browne and Brendan Martin here with you. A lot to cover. If you watched any any of the games last night, you saw you can't take a night off in this league. Auburn goes down. Not surprised.
What
Coach,
happened to War Eagle last night?
they're good, but hey, it's March, and Buzz Williams now 6-2 in his last 8 matchups with Coach Bruce Pearl. And like I was telling Coach Brady a minute ago, Auburn's still celebrating Sunday and Monday about beating a Kentucky team that's 500. I know it's a big thing to beat them because of the brand, but you better be ready because it's March, and this is the stakes are getting higher every day. Hey, take a picture of that QR code with your phone and be a subscriber. We are on 7 different platforms: X, Facebook, YouTube, and Brendan Martin is putting reels out on Instagram and all over social media. We do it 5 days a week. And remember, if you don't watch us live, watch us anytime. We love you watching us anytime. And we love your comments and questions during the show if you want to do it. Some people are bashful, but if you want to ask questions, we got Coach John Brady, who's taken LSU to the Final Four, Oakley, McFerrin, the intern, Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, and Vince Ferrara from the Sports Animal in Knoxville. So let's go. It is Ash Wednesday. I'll be at Mass later today. What are we giving up for Lent? I'll tell you what I'm giving up. No negative thoughts allowed in my head. I try to do that every day.
Wow.
No negative thoughts.
Yeah. Who's policing that?
Me. I get frustrated. Coach, Brendan and I last night, that was an awesome with Steve Russell, by the way, Brendan, on Buddy Martin's show. But Coach, Oakley had some homework assignments for this week. The intern, we're going to get into some pretty cool stats, but I want to get your thoughts. Y'all were at Kentucky last night. Let's talk about LSU and Kentucky. And man,
that was a night.
Yeah, it really is. That LSU brand is so powerful, though. And when I think Jimmy Ott, or maybe you said it, in the last 25 years, LSU's been to the tournament only 7 times. You would think, because I grew up with Dale Brown, and then you followed Dale Brown. So that's LSU basketball to me.
Well, kind you say that, but I don't know that number's correct. Dale, I'm not sure that number's correct. I think it was more than that. I mean, if
that's what I thought,
and Dale went 7 times, that number's not. Will Wade went once or twice.
Yeah.
So that's not correct.
It can't be correct because that's what I was going to ask you, because I would think it was 13. I'm thinking 13 of the last 25.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe so.
Numbers.
I'm not good at checking numbers like that.
But I want your thoughts on, at this point in the season, what are you telling your team when things are just really not going well at all?
Well, I guess you're referring to the LSU team. I think you always have to give them some hope to keep playing and find a way to get them a path of what they're doing where you can see something that's positive in it. You certainly can't beat them up because that won't help them from a mental standpoint. So you've got to kind of bring them to know that there's something out there. This is crazy. Now, if the NI 13 teams to go to the NCAA tournament, the next 2 teams automatically go to the NIT and automatically host a game. There's a chance that if into the SEC in terms of the NCAA bids, there's a chance LSU could go to an NIT based on the criteria it takes to get in it. So, that's something to play for right there. But I will say this, a lot of times when I see teams in person, and last night, without their second leading scorer who's out for the rest of the year, They were really, really good. I thought defensively they were a lot better than they get credit for, at least last night from what I saw. They climbed in, and maybe we're just an easier team to defend, but they climbed into us, and our perimeter couldn't do a thing, and we can't score off the post anyway. And then Kentucky just shot the ball. They get up and down the floor as quick as any team in the league. And if they hadn't had those injuries, probably to knock them off stride a little bit, I think their team is really good. And I think on any given night, when they're making some baskets, and that's what their team depends on, is making shots. But when they can get up and down the floor, get some easy baskets, and get into a rhythm of play like Alabama, you know, they're a very good basketball team. Impressed with them last night.
Yeah. And Coach, another question before Oakley is going to throw some stats at us for his research on where we are. When I look at Kentucky and I look around the league, we got this big matchup tonight. Florida plays at Alabama. Auburn clinched the SEC regular season championship Saturday. Is it purely all about seeding right now? And do you coach? How do you coach? Because the stakes get higher after then you got the SEC tournament. And so you could theoretically say you may only have 3 games left in your career if you're playing for, and you're a senior. Of course, what is a senior nowadays, Coach? We got guys in their mid and late 20s sticking around. But what would you be telling?
Kentucky started 5 grads last night. 5 graduate guys. I mean, gee
wow.
whiz, you know, so I don't. All that's beyond me. That kind of the transferring and all of that.
Yeah.
I don't. It depends on where your team is. You know where they are. You know, is what you tell them and how you coach them. But team, it's already in the NCAA tournament, and you've got to feel it. I just think you coach to win, regardless. You know, and you don't worry about seeding. I never worried about beating this team to get this seed. I just coach to win the game. And if you continue to win, all that other stuff will take care of itself. But you talk about last night. I think of all the games last night, I think A&M caught Auburn at the right time, as y'all have alluded to already. I mean, Auburn was on a high. They're on the road at A&M. A&M just caught them at the right time. The most impressive win to me last night was Arkansas at Vandy.
God.
Arkansas struggled to score and then they put 90 on Vandy in Nashville. I mean, that I thought that game was shocking to me. And then the second one was, I thought Texas was down and out, and they go to Mississippi State and put 87 on the Bulls.
Yeah.
Crazy league. It's going to be a great. I'm not concerned about Florida and Alabama. That game's not important to me. What I like is these bottom teams like Arkansas and Texas, and can they win a game or two and get into that tournament? Arkansas might be in now. Texas got a chance to get another win. So I'm bottom 4 or 5 teams.
Yeah. Yeah, and Coach, you're making great points, and I think, Coach, if we can, okay, are you back now? Yeah, you might want to try to. Yeah, are you there? Okay.
Yeah. I'm here now.
I agree with what you said about the seeding. Just play the damn games, and no offense to the TV guys. I mean. But, boy, you know, between how many teams there are on the bubble and first 4 in, first 4 out, and then Martha, that old hag on the Medicare supplement commercials, I don't know what's worse. But, Coach, I love what you just said about I ain't thinking about seeding. I'm thinking about just winning the damn game, okay? All right, Oakley – the intern, Oakley. We had a couple of homework assignments, and Oakley is a huge Steelers fan as well. Steeler Nation only had 4 coaches, I think, in franchise history, and look at their record. Maybe it pays to stick with people. But all right, Oakley. So what we looked for were what's the most SEC teams to ever make the SEC tournament. Do we have a number on that? I'm curious.
Yeah. So it was last year. It was with
Well,
8 teams making it. So we're gonna.
I don't know what
We'll
happened.
be up to 13.
Okay,
this
we got
year.
you, Coach. Whoops.
And then
all right. Yeah.
Our record's 10, including the NIT, because last year we had 8 in the tournament, 2 in the NIT. This year we're gonna have 15 out of 16 at least in a tournament. So it's record breaking for sure. The key will be, can we advance?
Because last year Auburn, and I think Auburn made too big a deal out of getting sent to Spokane. I'd have just I'm with Coach. Hey man, if we got to play in the parking lot at Walmart, we're gonna give our 110%. And you know what I'm talking about.
Well, this is the problem, and this is what people talk about with the SEC tournament. We played three games in the SEC tournament, had to win those 3 in a row. Then 3 days later, you have to travel across the country, and I think that took a big hit on us. I get that's.
You've muted. You muted Oakley, but can't hear you. Okay. All right. Oakley, did you hit the mute button? Okay. Well, we've lost him here. But, Coach, you're back with us. Looks like the signal's good. Okay. Oakley, we couldn't hear you, so I try to look at the mute button. But, Coach, what Oakley just said, SEC had 8 teams last year into the tournament, 2 in the NIT, so that was 10. He thinks this year we'll have 13 in the NCAA tournament, plus a couple in the NIT, which is 15. But again, little technical issues there. You're right, because you've done this, and we get way too caught up in the seed. You can't control what that committee's going to do, but you can control what you do.
Yeah, and I think you confuse your team. You get thinking about too many things. I think you just think about playing the best you can and trying to win the game. And, you keep winning. It doesn't matter the seed. But I don't think coaches play for a certain seed. I know some coaches have the philosophy, if they know they're in the tournament and they have a top 4 seed, they go the conference tournament and they don't really care if they win it or not. They just want to play well and continue to play well. And I think that's the emphasis. You want your team sharp. You just try to win the game. And the more you do that, the less confusion you can put into your team, because they feel it anyway. And I think there just needs to be a single purpose, no confusion. Let's go win the game, keep playing well. That's our goal. And wherever that is that.
Yeah, I agree. Oakley, you're back with us. What the next question we had? You got 13 going to the NCAA tournament is your prediction from the SEC this year, 2 to the NIT. You don't want to be the one school that doesn't make it this year, but it's just the way it is. I mean, somebody's got to pick that straw. Next question. How many coaches, currently head coaches in the SEC, have been to or at least won a national championship?
Yeah, so John Calipari is the only one to have won a national championship. We've got a few more that have gone to the Final Four with Barnes, Bruce Pearl, and Nate Oates. But that's the next step for the SEC, is advancing in March, and this will be a crucial year for that. Yeah,
Coach, along those lines, you've been to the Final Four. It's kind of like, how many kids in your neighborhood played in the NFL or the NBA, or how many people do you know have taken a team to the Final Four? It is so damn hard. I remember one of the shows last year, you were down in Mississippi with Tim Floyd. I didn't know he was from Hattiesburg. Hell of a coach. Like the coaches say, enjoy this. Soak it up, man. Relish it. Oakley, you remember your last high school football game, your senior year at NBA?
Yes, sir.
It was kind of emotional. It was emotional, wasn't it?
For sure.
Because why? Because you worked your ass off with a lot of guys that believed in common goals. Yeah. Coach, man, we got to get you on SEC Network so you can tell all these bubble people, chill. All right, Coach, address the nation. This is the state of the nation of basketball with Coach John Brady from Macomb, Mississippi. But tell us right now, fan bases out there, what kind of happens with coaches as they start wrapping up getting ready for the SEC tournament, and then trying not to look ahead to March Madness, but there's a lot on the plate.
Well, the less confusion and the less anxiety you can create with your team. You try to keep them in the moment. Get better at the practice. Concentrate on the next game. Don't get caught up in looking ahead because I've said this before. You start looking ahead, may or may not happen. It creates anxiety within the team, and you don't perform well when you have a high level of. So anything the coach can do, concentrating on that game, just win the next game, and then we'll go from there. Every game creates a different set of circumstances.
Yeah, and they do, Coach. You cut off there, but Oakley, you know what he just said about the anxiety.
Well,
That's that. You're 18, and Coach. What you just said is going to help me in my personal life because I do worry about things sometimes, and it's someone smart, very close to me said worry is the absence of faith. I've got faith, man. Oakley, along that line, you also got everybody coming at you. You're 18. I mean, you got everybody coming at you, telling you every day, Janai Broom or, Micah Hanglotten at Florida or, Sears at Alabama, you're going to class. You demand. That's not as easy as it looks, is it?
no, I think everything's heightened since the beginning of social media. Like, I think we saw that perfectly last night with Auburn coming out lackadaisical, probably got on their high horse. And Janai Broom's had 2 bad games in a row, right as he becomes the favorite for the Wooden Award. So, I don't know. With social media, just everything's heightened, and that makes a coach's job all that much harder.
Yeah. Coach, toward the end of your career, social media began to be a big deal. Did you have a policy about cell phones and messaging about what is said in the protective dome? I can tell you did.
Yeah, I used to compensate cell phones. If I was going to meet with my team in the locker room and it was going to be a challenging meeting, I took cell phones away. I didn't want to be recorded in the locker room by some disgruntled player. I took cell phones away on the road night before the game. I think you control what you can try to control, and you explain it to the team as to why. Because some of those guys will be on the phone all night long the night before a game. And I didn't let them have a phone on the bus riding to the game because I've been, with the team I'm with now. Sometimes they got their phone and they're on the phone driving to the game from the hotel, talking to who knows who, or texting who knows who. And I think the purpose is to go win the game, and your concentration and it needs to be on what you've got to do with the task at hand. If you're going to war, you can't be thinking about something else. And to me, going to play a game, particularly on the road, you were going to battle, and you needed to concentrate on that particular game and just put everything else out. So I tried to help our team do that by taking cell phones and not letting them talk to who knows who, as you're going, to war, so to speak. That's how I treat it.
Yeah. Oakley, you look around like what Coach just said, and you understand social media, but you got damn near straight A's your first semester in college. You're focused, you're disciplined, you're hungry, and you live by anything worth having in life is worth fighting for. All that being said, you're right. Janai Broom, all of a sudden, you're the favorite to win the Wooden Award. He's had 2 rough games. What do you think happens Saturday when Auburn's good friends from Tuscaloosa come over there? Because they would like nothing more after watching Auburn celebrate them getting beat by Tennessee and singing Rocky Top on the bus. They are going to be motivated.
Yeah, if you see an unmotivated Auburn team come out that game, I think there's some problems. It's Nick Saban talks about it all the time. Rat poison. You can't let everything get into your head. Everyone's built up this Auburn team the whole season. So both teams should be motivated for that game, and that should be a great game.
Yeah. All right, Coach, back to that Florida-Alabama game.
Right.
The unselfishness of a guy like Micah Hanlockton, who came back, could have been taking a redshirt year. We all remember that compound fracture at his ankle in the Auburn-Florida SEC championship game. That was sickening. I mean, that was awful. But that kid, the culture that's being built at Florida is so similar to the culture at Auburn. Todd Golden played for Bruce Pearl in the Maccabi games in Israel. He was director of basketball operations at Auburn. But those guys at Florida love each other. They love their coach. The coach loves them. I imagine your players felt the same way about you because you were a hard ass. No, I mean, you are. But you're tough on them. But when Franz Beard talks about you, he says that man knows basketball. But I'm thinking about Florida at Alabama tonight. What do you think happens? That's a weird matchup.
Well, I think Alabama needs to get back to playing, better than they have played. I guess the last 3 or 4 games they've had some disappointing losses. They had the game won at Tennessee and gave it away. So I think Alabama's got more to prove than Florida. I've always liked the Florida team. You know that. After Auburn, I think Florida maybe the second best team in the league. You could throw in Tennessee and throw in Alabama, but I really think that Florida team is really good. I think Florida, they'd love to go in there and win the game, but I think the big thing for Florida is to go in there and just play well and see what happens. Make Alabama beat you, don't beat yourself. And I think that's kind of the banner I would carry going into that game. Let's play as well as we possibly can. Let's make Alabama beat us and make them earn it. Let's don't give it to them by throwing the ball away and taking bad shots and not rebounding it. Let's make them beat us. And if we do that, then we can walk out of there and be fine. But Alabama needs to play well. They've got something to prove here, and I think this is a big game for them in terms of their mental, maybe they're where they are mentally and their confidence level, getting to where they want to go. And so I think this is a big game for Alabama, and I'm sure at home Alabama shoots the ball well. Their game, the shooting of threes doesn't travel as well, in my opinion, as it does play at home. Yeah. So I think that'll be a really good game, and I think Alabama will play well. I think Alabama will win the game, but if they do, they're going to have to play really well to beat this Florida team.
Yeah. And Oakley, I know you've got class coming up in a minute, but size-wise, what's the worst-case scenario going forward matchup-wise for this Auburn team that's clinched the SEC? They're 15-2 with 1 game left. And I'm talking not just Alabama Saturday, but SEC tournament and March Madness, because coaches like Buzz Williams, there's a lot of them out there that are basketball savants. And I think, to borrow Chuck Oliver's term, he gets 50 pounds out of a 10-pound sack like nobody else in America.
Well, I think Auburn wants to avoid those juggernaut like defensive teams similar to Texas A&M. We struggled against Tennessee at home, probably should have lost that game.
Yeah.
Then out of conference teams would be Michigan State, who might be the best defensively, and then as well as St. John's. Yeah. I don't think anybody wants to play those teams because they're going to put you in a dogfight, and it's anyone's game.
Yeah, it really is. All right, Oakley, I know you got a role, but I want to say outstanding research. Those are some cool stats, okay? So we're going to come up with some cool stuff for next week. But if you had to pick right now your top 4 seeds in America for March Madness, impart that wisdom on us right now. Kind of putting you on the spot, but I'm curious what you think.
Okay, so I think Auburn and Duke are clear number 1 and 2. Whoever you can pick and choose who you want as number 1. Then I think Florida will be up there. I think Florida will win the SEC tournament. Yeah. So I think they'll be up there. And then as the 4th, it's going to come down to conference tournaments, but I think Michigan State will win the Big Ten tournament. So I think they could sneak their way up there. But I think it'll end up being Houston.
Yeah, Kelvin Sampson. All right. Oakley, how do people follow you, man? Because you're active on social media. But first, you're a dedicated student. Grades come first before any of that other nonsense. I know you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Oakley.McFerrin on all platforms on social media. So,
All right. Hey, have a great day. Have fun in class, man.
okay. Thank you.
All right, take care.
See you.
Let me say something. Yeah, he's really into this, doing the research. And Coach, yeah,
Where'd you find him? Rob?
he is our good friend's son, and he's from Nashville, and he's a freshman at Auburn, Sigma Nu, and got almost a 4.0, close to it his first semester. And I've known him a while, and my son Wilson loves him like a brother, and so I got to know him through him. And he's just from a great family, of awesome people, and but huge fan of sports and research. So we're all learning from you, Coach. And before we bring in Dudley Dawson from Hogville.net, let me say something about Winter Timber Outdoors, Athens, Alabama. Great folks to work with. Okay, they're open every day of the week, and we're going to focus on right now the seasons. It is turkey season. They got the slate calls, the box calls, the diaphragm, the mouth calls. If you're hunting turkeys, you got to have the right camo. You got to sit still. Yes, I struggled to turkey hunt to sit still because I had a snake crawl right over my snake boots sitting up against the tree one time, and fortunately he kept going. But turkeys, you got all the loads. Migra Ammunition. They've got the 3.5 copper-plated 4 and 5s. You hit them, one shot, one kill. All the gear: Sitka, duck camp, Dixie decoys, deer stands, food for your food plots, scopes, rifles, over 2,000 shotguns, rifles, and handguns in the store. Stores under construction in Auburn right now, going to open in June, maybe earlier. Something soon should be said in the Memphis market. Winter Timber Outdoors. Follow them. Check them out. Let them know you heard about them on Sidelines. They're open every day of the week in Athens, Alabama, soon to be in an SEC town near you. Let's bring in Dudley Dawson. Coach, stay on with us if you can, because I love having you on here. I know we had some audio issues here earlier, but by Dudley Dawson on Google Chrome. That's your backyard, isn't it, right there?
Absolutely.
Is that Heber Springs?
Here at the Manor. Yeah. Hey, I'd also like to point out I had a 4.0 cumulative in college. There was a 1.0 as a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior.
Yes, sir. Yeah. There you go, Dudley.
That's a good one.
I like that. I like that. You were stacking them on top of one another. No,
That's right.
I ain't buying that because
consistency, baby. It's all about consistency.
That's right. Dudley, Coach Brady mentioned a few minutes ago, and having lived in Jonesboro for what? How many years did you live there? 8 years?
I was 8 years there. Yes, sir.
In the borough. So you know where Newport, Arkansas, where Dudley's from, and Balch. And
Absolutely.
You probably had breakfast at Blue Jays before over in Grubbs. If you're recruiting.
I didn't go that deep.
Hey, Coach, here's a question I ask every coach on a recruiting visit, in-home visit. If they served something that was like bad, I'm talking Ellie Mae Clampett bad, biscuits like hockey pucks, what did you do? Did you ask for seconds? Coach O said, you asked for seconds.
You eat it all. And make sure there's a glass of water close by so you can wash it down.
That's right. That's right. Coach referenced Arkansas. What a win. I stayed up late and watched that last night. That was a late game. 90 points at Memorial Gym, the weirdest configuration of a sports arena. Let's get your thoughts on Hogs win.
Well, first of all, it reminded me of Space Jam because Saturday they had no powers whatsoever at South Carolina, dribbling it off their legs. I mean, I've been covering and around the Arkansas basketball program for 40 years, and I've never seen anything like that. I mean, 12 points in the first half, 3 field goals. It was just amazing. And then the same people came out last night and were kicking the ball and it was going in. I mean, it was just unreal. A huge win kind of negates that loss at South Carolina. You put yourself in position with these so-called experts saying you needed to get to 7 wins. Well, they're there now, and I sure didn't think that was going to happen at 1-6.
Yeah, I mean, it again, I'm biased. I'm from Memphis. I have watched Arkansas all my life, but to go in there, Vandy's not an easy place to win. I'll never forget one time when I was in school at Auburn. I was walking through the gym one time and practice was going on. Back then, you could just walk in. Sonny Smith's out there trying to do a set, trying to teach something, and that team had Chuck Person and Charles Barkley on it, and Gerald White out of Richmond Academy in Augusta, Georgia, Frank Ford out of Kissimmee, Florida. They were really, really good. And he goes, "All right, everybody stop." And he goes, "Now we're playing Vanderbilt Saturday. I don't know what happens when the plane crosses into the state of Tennessee, but y'all's basketball brains just lock up." He goes, "We can win up there, but that's a house of horrors to play basketball at."
Yeah, amazingly, Arkansas has done pretty good over the years there. The configuration of the court, as you said, is interesting, but it's still about putting the ball in the hole and playing defense. Two of the things that they did last night, and did in abundance. The one thing I would say is that, I don't think a Los Angeles Lakers game and a Vanderbilt game should ever start at the same time on a Tuesday night.
Yeah. What time did it start?
9 o'clock in Vanderbilt. So
10 o'clock Eastern.
10 o'clock, yeah.
I thought it was weather related, but of course they play the game inside. But Coach, you were talking the other day on the show last week about these late 8 and 9 o'clock games. That's a brutal one. That's like talk to any resident in medical school. The 36-hour shifts. That's not easy. But Coach, you played at Vanderbilt a lot. Do you know why the benches are on opposite ends of the court?
Yeah, because the fans are low, on the sidelines, and if you put the benches there, they couldn't see, and that's why they put them on the ends. And they used to not let the coach get on the sideline and coach. Now they let him walk around. When I was there, we had the coach on the baseline and holler at the other end. And our players offensively loved that because they couldn't hear me. So, let me ask, what about, get your thoughts on Arkansas. They've got 7 wins in the league. They got Mississippi State at home. Do they need that win to get to the tournament, or do you think they're in with 7 wins?
Well, I think you need to go ahead and get that win. And, but again, I call them the so-called experts, the Lenardis, the others who have done a pretty good job at tracking this thing, seem to think 7 and 11 gets you in. And I don't, as a basketball purist, I guess 7 and 11 shouldn't be, the one that gets you in. But at the same time, in a 16-team league that's really good, I have people coming up to me all the time saying there should be a mid-major in instead of a 7-11 team. Well, they do all these metrics, and they usually get it right. So we'll see. But I would bet you that Coach Cal's not sitting there saying we got it. I'm sure he thinks he needs to win 2 more.
Wow. Vince Ferrara, the sports animal in Knoxville, one of the hardest working guys out there. And Vince, we're talking about Tennessee. That's another matchup. Oakley, McFerrin, the intern was on in the first segment. So that's a game Auburn should have lost. There's just certain matchups with coaches. Rick Barnes and John Calipari, I think, are 1 and 2 in the nation in all-time wins. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about this Tennessee team. I was out with my wife running some errands Saturday. I've got the app for the sports animal in Knoxville, listening to Bob Kessling on the call and Bert Bertelkamp. Love my radio. That 3-pointer by Meshack, 35-footer. They went crazy at Thompson Bowling Arena. Were you out there in the middle of all that?
I was, yeah. It was as loud as I've heard it in a long, long time. And certainly Tennessee was playing uphill. So just the fact that they went on a 7-0 run in the final 30 seconds for that to be the capper to that, and everything that needed to play out to get them to that point was incredible. And they just couldn't have one thing go differently than the way it did, from Jemai Meshack getting an offensive rebound and getting fouled, sending him to the line and him making 2 free throws when they were down to Alabama. Nate Oates substituting out 2 of his better rebounders to put in offensive guys before that free throw of Chaz Lanier, where Meshack was fouled and ended up getting the offensive board and getting back to the line. So there was that. There was a tie-up that should have been a foul on Mark Sears that moved the possession arrow to Tennessee, and then because of that, because it was a tie-up instead of a foul, then that means when Jemai Meshack dives on the court for a tie-up, the possession arrow goes to Alabama. That gives Alabama the basketball with the inbounds with 3.8 seconds to go, and then they have a 5-second call. Tennessee's defense denied and forced that 5-second call. Nate Oates had 2 timeouts. He didn't use either one of them. And that has been an issue for them this season, is some of those inbounds plays. So Tennessee's defense, so many factors in that game. And then at the end with the buzzer beater, they denied Ziegler the ball. Meshack got the inbounds and saw room. Rick Barnes was trying to call timeout. And Barnes said, normally I tell and Coach Brady will know this, normally I give the official the heads up before that I'm going to call a timeout. So then they're looking for it. Well, he said, my best coaching move was, for whatever reason, I didn't tell him in advance. So therefore he didn't hear him when he tried to call a timeout in the moment. Meshack, they didn't give it to him. Meshack didn't think Rick Barnes wanted a timeout. So he went and took the shot and he made it. He was confident in it. He works on it all the time, where he has big Felix Okpara defending him and he has to shoot over him. So amazing. A guy that people have wanted out of the lineup, and Jemai Meshack, despite him maybe being the best defender in the country, for him to make that shot, it just incredible. From near the spot where Chris Lofton made his legendary 3 against Kevin Durant, Texas, coached by Rick Barnes back in the day. Just amazing. And then all the ramifications it has for the SEC tournament, and then a potential 1 seed. Oh, by the way, a hated rival as well. So just an amazing afternoon in Knoxville.
Needed every Saturday. 10th of a second.
Right. They put 1 point. You're absolutely right, Dudley. They put 1.2 on the clock going into that inbounds, and then it certainly helped Tennessee for sure.
Coach, along the line of what Vince said just now, would you expand somewhat on that about letting them know in advance on the timeout and all? Because what year did you retire from coaching? He's retired from the show. We lost him.
No comment.
Yeah. Well, we'll get him back, but we've got aliens
we
out there.
We disguised the voice of the witness.
That's right. I would not tell you. But I'm listening to that game on the Sports Animal. Bob Kessling and Bert Bertelkamp on the Vol Network. I mean, God, what a powerful moment that was. And you know what? Thompson Bowling, 22,000 and change. That's the biggest arena. When they built it, it was what, 25,000, Vince? They wanted to be bigger than Kentucky. Did they retrofit it now? Are there suites in there?
Yes, there are, and they brought down the capacity some as well. So we've gotten the short end of it in the media. Like, our seats continue to move away from the action for the fans.
I hate that.
But anyway, it was incredible, and Tennessee, they weren't great in their game after their last really good win over a top 10 team, and when they beat A&M, they followed that up and kind of were a little shaky at times against LSU and got to the finish line. Ole Miss is going to be very motivated to beat Tennessee and welcome them tonight. And you talk about coaching relationships. You mentioned Calipari and Barnes. Well, Rick Barnes and Chris Beard are 2 former Texas coaches. They've known each other and competed quite a bit. Of course, Chris Beard went to the national championship at Texas Tech, and 2 assistants played together actually. Al Pinkins at Ole Miss and Justin Yaney at Tennessee, associate head coach. They played together at NC State under Herb Sendek, who was an assistant coach under Rick Barnes. So all these guys know each other. There's a Murfreesboro, a Nashville kid from Ensworth in Malik Dia, who's in a 4-guard lineup. So there's plenty. And Ole Miss is going to be motivated because they took a woodshed from Tennessee last year when they met in Knoxville.
Yeah. Well, And Coach Brady, we lost him. He'll be back with us next week.
Well, I can answer a little bit of his question. It's been a long time since I've been on the bench with Coach Eddie Sutton and Coach Nolan Richardson, but that was one of the things that they did, traditionally at all the time. They even let the referees know what they were going to do in regards of timeout and different things like that, ahead of time, because you just have to do that, especially when you were at Arkansas, the crowd was so loud, things like that, or on the road. But the thing I would say is that Coach Richardson also took time to discuss the last call.
Well, the thing about it is what y'all are saying, all the stuff happening down there at the end of the game with the coaches, all the minutia. And Vince, you're so good at seeing that. But I want to go back to what you said about the seats are getting worse every year for the sports media, be it TV, radio, print, podcast, bloggers. How about if you didn't have the media? Let's flip the tails. Showing these games and broadcasting and telling all these great stories. How much interest would there be in following those teams? I think we got to get back to the days when the media were treated like rock stars, because not just because I do this show, but that's how you build a following, Vince. And you work harder than a dozen Mennonite farmers cleaning up after a storm. You're up at probably 3:30 or 4 in the morning to do your show from 5 to 8, 6 to 9 your time, Monday through Friday. Plus, you're on the Vol Network. Plus, you do baseball. And I'm sick of it. I don't think it's a smart way to go to push aside the sports media. And I know you got to sell luxury seats, but who else is going to tell your stories?
Well, it would be nice if it was trending that direction, Rob. But honestly, it's going the other direction. Look, the way ESPN dominates broadcasting and coverage, they could survive just from ESPN doing everything. Let's be real. I mean, between the SEC network and everything that falls under their umbrella, everything in the SEC and football, for the most part, is the ESPN umbrella. So media days is turned into the ESPN special, and then the rest of us get to be there. So that's just kind of the way it's gone. I think the power of the league right now, I don't think they feel like they need all of the local outlets. Do you know, for the first time, I can never remember this. You guys have covered plenty of events. There's no media hotel at the SEC men's tournament in Nashville next week. I had never heard of that. So, it's because of the expansion and everything. And look, probably some of it is those downtown hotels in Nashville are so expensive and profitable. They probably told the SEC, yeah, you want that many rooms for the media? No, we're not doing that. Because we can sell these for 4 times what you want to give the media rate for. So I'm sure that's part of the thing. But now they're so successful. They have so many national networks. I don't think they feel like they're made or broken by local outlets. And I'll say this, even though, yes, they moved us to the top of the first level, at Tennessee, there are other SEC spots that have it much worse, to where you have fans standing in front of your media seats. Auburn is one of them. I think there's a couple others. You probably know that, Rob. To where, it's even worse, and you have fans all around you and stuff. And there's worse, but it's not trending towards improving, unfortunately.
Yeah, Auburn put a double wide trailer over there in the corner of the stadium, and it's embarrassing. I mean,
for basketball too, yeah.
Yeah, and you're the football. You got glass. Right. You're not even out there with the fans, and that's I think of what David Housel and Buddy Davidson built, that palace up there, and how much goodwill it generates for you. You think about it at Arkansas. You think about Bud Ford and Haywood Harris. These, Schaefer at Arkansas. You think about, God, all the goodwill, Dudley. And for golly, let's don't forget from 82 to 92, Frank Broyles and Keith Jackson, Big Daddy, as they called Frank Broyles, how incredible that tandem was calling football. I mean, Keith Jackson, whoa, Nelly, touchdown. And the next roar you'll hear from shaking the trees in North Alabama will be when the Tigers from Auburn come on to Legion Field, and here they come. Well, Frank, I got it. I mean, just that was chemistry. Like, I know we got a lot of good announcers now, but let's be honest. Back when they drank in the booth, it was a lot more fun. Tom Brookshire, Pat Summerall, just to get any better on a Sunday afternoon when you're sitting in your chair
Mike Shannon,
with a cold beer watching the Cowboys play with those guys. And, Gene Deckerhoff calling Gene Deckerhoff Florida State Seminole football and the Tampa Bay Bucks. Remember, he'd do Florida State Saturday and Tampa Bay on Sunday. Yep. And now he's doing Tampa Bay, but not Florida State. Ever since he left Florida State, the program's gone downhill. But I digress. Dudley, question from Clarence Beeks, one of our viewers. Clarence Beeks, he has the crop reports. He said, y'all, I want Dudley and Vince to give me your dark horse to win the SEC tournament in Nashville.
Texas A&M, if that can be a dark horse, because nobody wants to play them the way they play. So, yeah, Texas A&M would be my choice. Let Vince talk, and then I've got some I want to say about the media positioning.
Hey, that's right. That's what we're here for.
Dark horse, so I would I guess I would define that as someone not getting a double bye, I guess, if we're going to include that. Yeah. I might say Missouri. They can shoot the three and get hot. They just have a different style of play. They have a swagger to them. I wouldn't just outright pick them, but they come to mind in terms of one that could get hot and could maybe do some damage as a dark horse.
Yeah, and I like what Chuck McKenzie just said. The disrespect our Gators are getting is nothing new. We understand it's all about the TV, so all the Gators need to do is win. Don't worry about the polls. Go Gators. That's the worst matchup for most teams because they've got those five big guys. I'm going to go with Oakley McFerrin, the intern. He picked Florida. He thinks Florida's going to win the SEC tournament. I'm going to go with Oakley because of Walter Clayton Jr., Aberdeen, but the big guys that they've got. And they've got a 7'9" guy, in waiting. So, Dudley, let's get your thoughts about the media and the way things are going, because without the storytellers, and our job is to buck that trend on this show. Dudley?
Yeah, well, I've always thought that I and the rest of the media are part of the process. We're an integral part of it, but I don't think we lead the show. And I think it's important for you to have plenty of self-esteem when you're talking to coaches and that. And I've never had any problems with that. But I also think it's important to remember where you are at in the totem pole. That being said, moving us upstairs, I didn't have in basketball. I had no problems with it, off the floor until I had 2 knee surgeries, and and now couldn't you either put it by the elevator on the last row or down it somewhere a little, that's a deal. They've also, everybody now has their own in-house video and all that. It has reduced the number of individual stories you can write, reduced the amount of times that you get to talk to coaches and all that. So there's a lot of things that I'm not happy about as I get toward the end of my career. But I think it's also important for me to realize where I am as a cog in the process, not one that goes over the top. All that being.
Yeah. You've muted Dudley somehow. The aliens got to you. Yeah.
When you write a story, when you tell a story, you have to remember that most people watch it on TV, so they don't need to know that the 13-3 run got. You don't need to describe everything the 13-3 run. You need to describe why the 13-3 run happened, what one team didn't do, what one team did do. So that's what I'm still trying to do out there. even though the proliferation of TV and people watching the game, they don't need to hear me describe the action as much anymore.
Yeah. Vince, along that line, and I'm going to say too, recently, a great reporter, I didn't know him, but I used to always see him at media, Bob Holt.
Yeah.
You probably knew him. That's going to be very, opening day of SEC Media Days. I hope Commissioner Sankey will say something because he always fired the first shot. He always asked. He was a reporter. He wasn't worried about dressing and looking the greatest. He was a damn reporter. Okay, Vince, what's on your mind that we need to be hearing about? Because you're covering Tennessee, man. Y'all are winning in everything. Woody Harrelson said it best. You're on a gravy train with biscuit wheels.
It is wild. We had Danny White on, I guess it was last Wednesday, and just going through all of the success for all the different sports. And now you get the overlap with baseball and softball with basketball. The Lady Vols start the SEC women's tournament. They're in the 9 seed. They play 16 seed Texas A&M this morning. Actually, in a couple of minutes, they're going to tip in Greenville, South Carolina. So we're tracking that. The men final 2 games of the regular season, and then go to Nashville next week where I will be covering the Vols and covering what should be the best tournament we've ever seen. And then baseball, the number 1 team in the country in 4 of the 5 polls, defending national champions. How about since they lost to LSU a couple of years ago, guys, in Omaha, they are 72-13 since then with a national championship. They're incredible combo of home runs and home run power. They had 3 grand slams in a single game yesterday against Radford, which tied an NCAA record. They had 2 in 1 inning. Just amazing. The home run power, the walks. They've walked 105 times in 12 games. Just insane how good this baseball team is in the best league. Yeah. And the spring football starts on Friday also, just with plenty of storylines. We can get into that if you want. And then obviously we're tracking the combine with 6 Tennessee players there. So it's wild, everything going on, but it's helpful to what we do, guys, when the teams are good that you're covering, because everyone wants a piece of it and a part of it and they're interested in it.
Yeah. All right, let's take a walk around campus in Fayetteville. What all's going on up there at Arkansas that maybe people aren't talking about, but you're writing about at hogville.net and going to tell us about?
Yeah, a couple things there. Izzy Higginbotham, the leading scorer in the SEC. There was 2 teams that came out yesterday of 17 players. She scored more points than anybody in the nation. She single-handedly carried Arkansas to the wins that they've had. Pretty much. She was not named to the all-SEC team. Get out of here with that. Yeah. I mean, just get out of here with that. You know what I want to say, but I know it's a family show and all that. But please.
Widows and orphans.
Yeah, please. Baseball, Arkansas is, number 2 or 3 in the polls, except for the outlier Perfect Game, which has them 10th. Obviously, yesterday was a phenomenal game in terms of the way it ended, because they had the run rule in place, and they gave up a 2-out double on the last strike to keep it going. Then they went to the bottom of the 7th, and if you score a run, you're done. You have runners on 2nd and 3rd, lightning strike, and then more rain. So you called it off. Mother Nature was showing off her toolbox yesterday, and so they'll play too. And then the other thing I wanted to point out, there is a couple of young ladies here in Bree Ellis and Courtney Day, who together have combined for, I believe it's 60-something RBIs, which is more than a lot of teams in the SEC and more than a lot of teams in the country have together. They are mashing. And I've never before heard the term Bash Sisters, but that's what they're going with now.
I've heard the term Bash Brothers, y'all. I'm trying to think of where that was used, but wow.
It's Seiko and McGuire.
Yes, that's it. And I'll tell you, Sam, that was the big 1998. Who was on roids? You see these guys with a visor.
Baseball.
a visor protruding out over their eyes. It's like, you might be on something special. But Vince, you're right on, and so is Dudley. All these stories that are happening. And I credit y'all to the great job that you do, because you go find these stories. And again, Brendan said something when we teamed up last year when he became our executive producer, which is like one of the greatest
Solid
days
move.
of my life.
Solid move, baby.
Yeah, outstanding. And he said something about, you can fly from New York to San Diego, and you're going to be at about 40,000 feet flying across the country. But you got to drill down local. And, nationally, the drive-by media will come through Knoxville and they'll write a story. But Vince knows at a Pilot gas station, he can go there and get a death dog if he wants to, or whatever he's doing. The stories, the Cumberland Strip, Gus's Deli, and just all these great stories, just like Dudley does. And that's what makes your job so damn important, is that you tell the stories. Right now, you talk about where the media is, no hotel in Nashville. But the interest is growing, and more people tell me they're tired of ESPN dominating everything. They want to hear other opinions.
Yeah, I always think diversity is a good thing. It's healthy when, from whether it's broadcast partners or whether it's local media outlets, websites, things like that. You don't want one thing just controlling everything, because then whatever slant they may have, intentional, unintentional, oftentimes there's going to be one, then you don't have anything to kind of cross-check it with. So in every industry, including ours on all levels, having multiple sources is the way to go to make sure the consumer, which ultimately is the most important one in the fan, they get the best content for them to digest and take in, which is what they want.
Yeah. All right.
And I certainly think the same thing. And that's what I try to do, is give them the content they want. But also, I had someone come up to me the other day that gave me a phrase that I liked. They said, "You do it the right way, and you say what you mean, whether it's good or bad." And she said, "I think you've got a phrase that if you don't like me, bite me." I said, "Yeah, that sounds good. I'm going to take that."
Well, here's something else too. We all watch Paul Feinbaum when he interviews people. He's an incredible listener, and he's a great interviewer, and both of y'all are too. Your subject. The subject matter. You're also not afraid to ask questions, but you're both journalists as opposed to fans. Neither one of y'all I would call a cheerleader of your school. I mean, Vince, you worked in Tuscaloosa for several years at Tide 100.9. Gary Harris, our good friend, Rodney Orr and the people down there. Dudley, my God, what a bank of knowledge that you've got. That's what we need more of, is truth brokers that will tell it like it is. And let me say something real quick too. When you get out and about on the road, you'd be amazed at people that you meet, that hear your show. I'd go to Jackson, Tennessee. I was in Clarksville Sunday, back and forth to see the mother-in-law. Stopped off at this place called Exit 87 Barbecue along Interstate 40. I'm just going to tell everybody, it's been there 20 years or so. My brother-in-law said, meet me there. I'd never eaten there. I got a slaw dog and a barbecue bologna sandwich, and I bought another slaw dog, and I ate one of them. Brother-in-law ate one of them, and I gave one to Raven at Hewlett Dunn. But go to these people, and now they follow the show. And they actually interviewed me about how much I love the slaw dog. And I said, I'll tell you what, if I'm walking the Green Mile to the chair, the guillotine, a pool of sharks, I'm ordering 6 of these slaw dogs on the way, with preferably a Ham's beer to take it down with. But
Jack's Dairy Cup in Newport had that too. That was awesome, man.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
But you meet these people, and they watch these, and they get their information, and they appreciate what everybody does. They're going to start telling everybody to watch this show. But if you're not down on the ground, like Vince is and like you are, Dudley, you can't get the stories. So I cannot thank y'all enough for telling them. And so real quick before we close out, I want to say something about a couple of our sponsors, then I'm going to let y'all tag out. But Landers Ford, people, if you're looking for a new car, truck, or SUV, it is Ash Wednesday. And if you're going to give up something for Lent, it might be you're going to give up your old car that's unreliable or your truck. Get out there to Landers Ford, Poplar, and Houston Levy, open Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. $500 off for SEC Sidelines audience members. They're the number one Ford dealership in the Mid-South. And that isn't because they're lucky, because nobody will outwork Brad Bellamy, the GM, and his team. They've got a huge inventory at Poplar and Houston Levy. Service department picks you up, brings you back and forth for transportation. Proud to have them as a sponsor. And Hewlett and Dunn, boot and clothing company on the square in Collierville, Tennessee, right outside of Memphis, right there on the edge of the county. Easy to get to. You can order HewlettandDunn.com. Over 7,000 pairs of men's and women's boots. Right now, they got a 50% off sale. Barber, Filson, Duck Camp. Man, they got some great looking stuff. Ariat, Wrangler, Outback, Seeger. Man, you can get duck heads all on the 50% off rack. So get out to Hewlett and Dunn. Great clothing, Charles Hall, J.M. Huffman. And they've got these new earrings in there. I got my wife some. I was out there Monday, and she wore them to work yesterday and loves them. And, man, guys, if you're wanting to impress your wife or your girlfriend, check out the women's boots they have out there. Audrey has a great boot collection. Women look great in boots, and you don't have to live on the ranch to wear a great pair of boots. You can get them at Hewlett and Dunn. Dudley, before we go, what are you going to be looking for, sports-wise, out of Arkansas? I think they're in the tournament. I know Tennessee is. But to bounce back from 14 points in a half, I mean, I saw games for my kids in first and second grade scored more than 14. Of course, that's a different level, but to bounce back mentally from that loss, Calipari, I think the guy's a great coach, and he's got a team full of believers.
He did the right thing. Instead of talking too much about South Carolina game, he just said, I'm going to burn the tape. We're not going to watch it. We're going to move on. We played 8 games, high leverage games in a row. We're just going to move on, and I think they did that. If he had wallowed around in that, so would his team.
Yeah, I agree. You also can celebrate too long, Bruce Pearl. The Kentucky game, Monday you're still talking about it, and it's like A&M was just licking their chops. Vince, what are you looking for? And also, what are you talking about on your show right now? Because like you mentioned a minute ago, there's a lot happening on the Strip.
Yeah, we're talking about all those things. We had Charles Davis on from CBS and the NFL Network to talk about those 6 Tennessee players that were at the NFL Combine. A lot of talk on James Pierce Jr., potential first-round pick. So there's that. There's spring football practice starts Friday, and then basketball, baseball, softball, all those kind of things. And then in terms of the men's basketball team, 1-game lead over Missouri for the 4 spot, which would be in the double bye for the SEC tournament. I think that is huge. They have the tiebreaker over Missouri, so a win tonight against Ole Miss or against South Carolina on Saturday for Senior Day be pretty emotional. It's like Kai Ziegler, Jemai Mashak, final game at Thompson Bowling, Food City Center. But they get a win or a Missouri loss in the last 2, then Tennessee will earn that double bye. Then it's just a matter of how high they can get for the SEC tournament. That's step 1. And then, putting yourself in a better position for a number 1 national seed as well. So still plenty to play for the Vols.
Yeah, you always like to have something out there in front. Dudley, your backyard has never looked better out there on the pond. And you got the best. Hey, great show for executive producer Brendan Martin. Rob Browne saying so long. See us today at 5 p.m. Eastern on this channel with Ronnie Sanders. Today, cover. I will be talking about Auburn and a lot of SEC stuff. So thanks for watching. God bless you. See you tomorrow. Happy Ash Wednesday.